After 3 years of waiting, we, the audience, are finally brought back to the land of Wakanda. In a world without their Black Panther, did they tarnish the late, great Chadwick Boseman's legacy? Or did they give him a beautiful send-off and a prosperous future for the people of Wakanda to carry on? Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're watching this. My name is Brandon Aries, and welcome to The Sanctuary. Marvel Studios' Black Panther Wakanda Forever has finally come out in theaters. Of all films that came out this year, this was probably the film that scared me the most. Approaching this film felt like going back into something that made you happy or gave you joy, and then something tragic happens where you almost don't want to revisit that because you lost something or lost someone. We lost Chadwick Boseman. To think that we have to carry on without him is near unfathomable. Therefore, going into this film without its most pivotal main character and everything Chadwick brought to not just the Black Panther, but the people surrounding him can be terrifying. Before I talk about the film, I wanted to give some praise and respect to Ryan Coogler, the director. Ryan Coogler is one of my favorite directors of today's generation, directing films like Fruitvale Station, Judas and the Black Messiah, the Creed movies, and Black Panther. Dealt with an immeasurable task to continue this story without Chadwick in a new direction must have felt damn near impossible. Somehow he did it. In a recent interview, he actually talked about the original script that he had in mind. In the original script, Coogler was going to use grief, but in a different way, using T'Challa to grieve over the 5 years he lost during the blip, grieving the loss of time that as a king with so many responsibilities, he couldn't get back. It truly is heartbreaking that we will never, ever see that story be told, though a new story emerges, thus bringing us to where we are today. Let's talk about Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I mean, I'm just gonna say this now. Let's face it. It was great. Again, spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. It's so much that I have to say about this film, but in a good way. The film starts off with the death of T'Challa. It's a hard beginning to swallow that felt very real, and it truly showed the merging of T'Challa and Chadwick Boseman, two entities that were both loved, that they kind of became one. And I thought that was very poetic. We're then followed up with T'Challa's funeral. And yes, in some cultures, death is treated more so like a celebration because you're celebrating that person's life. You're not necessarily mourning them. And as T'Challa said in Civil War,
Death, it's not the end.
we should be celebrating not just what he brought to Black Panther, but what he brought to the world of storytelling. The opening Marvel Studios logo had a tribute to Chadwick, and it was dead silent. You could hear a piece of popcorn fall on the floor by how quiet it was. I'm glad they followed up with the UN meeting, showing the consequences from Black Panther 1 coming out in Black Panther 2, expressing Wakanda's resources and Wakanda's response because of the, quote, dangerous potential of the outside world. This leads me to the first kudos going to Angela Bassett. She really gave everything to this role. You could feel the loss of her child in every word of power she speaks, spoken like a queen who truly has lost everything. And there are a lot of people saying that Angela Bassett's performance should be considered for the Oscars. And I mean, I'm all for it. I like a lot of the parallels that they used from the first film, and some of them are even down to the exact shots. I'm glad they gave time in this film to show Queen Ramonda and Shuri getting closer. It gave me flashbacks to T'Challa in Civil War with his dad, and even when they were in the Ancestral plane in the first Black Panther film. M'Baku was one of my favorite parts of the first Black Panther movie, and that statement still stands true for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Even his dynamic with Wakanda and Shuri has changed drastically. I mean, after the events of Black Panther, we knew that M'Baku was changing his ways, and even now being a part of the council. I was happy the nod that Riri Williams gave to Chadwick Boseman's speech saying to be young, gifted, and black. The natural interactions between Shuri and Riri were probably one of the highlights of the film, and it's something that I hope to see in the future of the MCU. Okoye definitely stepped up in this film, and not just physically, character-wise too, but I mean, she did handle 3 Talokans by herself, and I think this is a change that a lot of people wanted even before the loss of Chadwick, as she was a very popular character in the first film. The change that they gave Namor, was very well executed. Remember in my Black Adam review where I said with Dr. Fate and Doctor Strange both on screen, it would feel like we have two Doctor Stranges. Well, if Namor was kept the same, then there would have been two Aquamans. I think changing his routes to a more Mayan Aztec origin was a great move on Marvel, giving the Latina community some well-deserved representation in the MCU. Even down to the name Namor, El Niño Sin Amor, the child without love. Ooh, brilliant. He also flat out called himself a mutant. So don't you worry, X-Men fans. The mutants are slowly coming in. You just gotta be patient. The visuals for this film were stunning. And with the music, ooh, spicy. Like when Namor shows Shuri the city of Talocan with the song Con la Brisa from the soundtrack in the background, really adds to the immersion of the experience. This is the time I wanted to open the floor and talk about something that Namor had said to Shuri. Only the most broken people can be great leaders. I want to know what some of you think. Something I like about this film is that it feels very grounded and very separate from the MCU, almost feeling like it's hidden or isolated from the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is something that maybe Marvel should consider to keep doing moving forward. This is a story of two cultures, two different empires with different ideals going to war. The music when Namor got pissed off was damn near petrifying. This new side of Marvel gets me so excited when they give us a sense of how dark they can really go. I mean, even the scene on the boat felt so disturbing and unhinging with the sounds and the sirens. When Namor and the Talocans breached Wakanda, it literally felt like an invasion, especially with the music. Oh my God! Bury your dead, mourn your losses. You're queen now. When he said that, I was like, oh my God! This man is now a menace to society. Ramonda ends up sacrificing herself for Riri, a noble and final act of the queen. At Ramonda's funeral, you see M'Baku and Shuri talking, and M'Baku kind of feels like Shuri's new family after keeping his promise to T'Challa. On to one of my favorite parts of the film, Shuri in the ancestral plane. After she uses Namor's bracelet to help replicate the heart-shaped herb, she takes it and goes into the ancestral plane. Only she's not met with Ramonda. No. No, she is met with no one other than Eric Killmonger. Hence why I wore the shirt today. Now, there were rumors that Michael B. Jordan was going to appear in the film, and most fans had pretty much theorized that the only logical way you can do that is through the ancestral plane. When I saw him though, my jaw still dropped. Because I mean, let's face it, Killmonger is one of the best villains of the MCU. The best thing about Killmonger and Shuri's interaction together was that Shuri realizes how alike she is to Killmonger, wanting to burn the world, as she said. And as the two start to argue, the room bursts into flames. He challenges Shuri's thoughts, and then he asks her, are you going to be noble like your brother? Or are you going to take care of business like me? The Black Panther lives. We are now introduced to Shuri, the new Black Panther. I like how her suit has a ceremonial dots from the first film and the funeral, and then it looks like she merged the designs of both T'Challa and Killmonger's Black Panther suits. To me, that shows that she has both traits of T'Challa and traits of Killmonger within her. However, she will find her own path or her own way to be Wakanda's protector. Shuri talks to M'Baku hot-headed, like she's out for blood. She wants Namor's head on a spear. Then we get to the final battle, and when Shuri cut off one of Namor's wings, I was like, damn, she wants him big dead. Namor stabs Shuri with a spear, and in those fight or flight moments, you hear Killmonger ask if she again is noble like her brother, or if she's gonna take care of business like him. She replies saying she's not her brother, and she'll make him beg for mercy as he dies. She takes out the spear in her gut and gets in front of Namor and detonates the ship on this man, then holds a spear to his throat. Checkmate, dog. As she looks into his eyes, she sees all the memories of Talocan and her home of Wakanda merged together, showing that the Talocans and the Wakandans aren't so different after all. Then we get one final parallel from Ramonda, where she tells Shuri from the ancestral plane to show him who she is. She said that exact same thing to T'Challa during the waterfall fight. Then there's the other parallel from Civil War about vengeance.
Vengeance has consumed you. is consuming them. I'm done letting it consume me.
Although Shuri says, vengeance has consumed us. We can't let it consume our people. Namor yields and the war is over. Back in Wakanda, you see they have a way now of harvesting the heart-shaped herb. After Shuri and Riri say bye, we're brought back to Warrior Falls, where M'Baku is challenging for the throne, which is exactly what I wanted for M'Baku in this new direction moving forward. I know some people were confused, like, oh, Shuri's Black Panther now, so doesn't that make her queen too? Not exactly. The ruler of Wakanda and Black Panther can be separate entities. T'Chaka chose to be king and Black Panther, and that mantle was passed down to T'Challa.
Now because your friend murdered my father, I also wear the mantle of king.
Though I don't think Shuri wants to be queen, and this is where M'Baku will come in. Shuri will be Black Panther, and M'Baku will be king of Wakanda. The film ends with Shuri visiting Nakia in Haiti and burning her ceremonial wear like her mother did earlier in the film, building that different relationship with her mother and her brother. The end. Just kidding, we gotta talk about the post-credit scene now. Nakia brings a child to meet Shuri. This is Nakia's son, Toussaint. Toussaint then says that his name is his Haitian name. His real name is Prince T'Challa, son of King T'Challa. Oh, my heart. I think this was a very smart move on Marvel. You're still kind of keeping the character of T'Challa, and I think it'll be nice seeing a younger role take Black Panther. The final parallel is when Nakia says that T'Challa had prepared Nakia and young T'Challa for his death, which is another reference to the first Black Panther film where T'Challa and T'Chaka were in the ancestral plane. And T'Chaka says,
"A man who has not prepared his children for his own death has failed as a father."
And that is Wakanda Forever. This film was a stunning tribute to Chadwick Boseman, with an excellent execution towards moving forward with the other characters. The pacing was a little off at times and it felt a little slow, but what I liked about it was that it felt like its own entity, separate from all the MCU stuff. And remember how I said it felt isolated and hidden? It kind of now reminds me of like a metaphor for Wakanda. Before I give my rating, I want to talk about some possible future points for the third installment of Black Panther. M'Baku will obviously be king while Shuri will remain Black Panther. However, it's going to be a good while before we see a third Black Panther film. Maybe in that time, Prince T'Challa will have aged some, because we already know he's about 5 or 6. Maybe with that growth, Shuri will kind of show Prince T'Challa some of the ropes to maybe one day become Black Panther. Also, with mutants slowly being introduced, this could be the perfect opportunity to get a young Storm to build a relationship with young Prince T'Challa. Then in the future, they get married and they become king and queen of Wakanda. And then they can have their child, Azari, who is an actual character in the comics. But that'll probably be like another 10 years from now or something. What can I say? I like my comics. But back to the current film, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I'm giving this an 8.8 out of 10.